Hey guys, this is Brett at GroMart Garden Solutions in Edwardsburg. I'm here today to tell you a little bit about my store and indoor growing. I've always had a passion for plants. I really truly have since I was a small kid. I've always had a green thumb in general. It doesn't matter what it is that I'm growing. So let's say that first and foremost. I'd say in 2008 when medical marijuana passed in Michigan, at that time I was actually living in Indiana. That's where I'm from originally. My father-in-law at the time had announced to me that in Michigan had passed medical marijuana, and I thought, wow, medical marijuana, that's really interesting. You know, I didn't know that was a thing either. At the time I was a user of marijuana, I will admit. It was helping me with a lot of things. As a matter of fact, I had some injuries to my back, suffering from chronic pain. So not even knowing or considering it medical, I didn't realize, yeah, this is more medical than I ever expected. So really started, you know, opening my eyes to the benefits of medical marijuana and that you could grow it, and Michigan was opening up these opportunities to be a caregiver, grow your own plants, take care of other people, and I really couldn't get up here quick enough. You know, my wife was in college at the time. I announced to her, I said, hey, let's move to Michigan. There's some great opportunities up there. I just love growing. I love marijuana in general, cannabis, the plant, and it's amazing the medical benefits it has. I've seen it help countless people. I mean, countless people, when you see tears roll down people's face because it's helped them so much. That's what drives me every day to keep this store going, let people grow their own medicine, and take care of themselves. So that's what's important to me. Well, we started at a perfect place here, actually. This is a nice kit here that has a few items in one box here. Essentially has these items that you're looking at here. But we'll start out with those pieces. You're going to start out with a bottom, what's called a plug tray. You're going to put your growing plugs in there, your starter plugs for seeds or clones, which would be something like this. There'd be a nicer picture of what those look like on the inside. It's a spongy material made from recycled tree bark. They have a hole in the top, so you're going to put your seed or your clone down in that hole. That plug goes into here. Put your dome on top. You're going to want to sit that on top of the heating pad as well. We'll skip over to the other side so I can show you that. Heating pad goes underneath the tray, as you can see in the picture there. So you're going to need a heating pad for clones or seeds. It doesn't really matter there. Heating pad is key to that. You don't want to cut any corners with your grow lights. I see that number one. A lot of people come into the store and they say, hey, I bought this light online, I bought this light on Amazon, and I just want to cringe because I just know that they've made a bad purchase. So I'm always here to help them out, make sure that they get the right light. So there are many options. With that being said, going back to, you know, starting your plants out in the cloning and seedling stage, you're going to need a lower wattage light. So there's a couple options there. LED, everybody knows what LED is nowadays. Low electricity, more efficient. Bulb's going to last very long. This would actually fit perfect on top of the dome that I showed back there earlier. That's a perfect light for clones and seedlings. Once you come outside of that, and once you've outgrown the dome and you've outgrown that tray, you have to go into a bigger pot, therefore a bigger light. So this little guy here is only 18 watts, keep in mind. So we're going to go from 18 watts, we got 125 watts. So this would be more what we call a vegetation stage. So again, this is outside of the dome, outside of the seedling cloning stage. This would be your next phase. 125 watt, 200 watt. You know, and then we get into some bigger fixtures, you know, where you're into more of your flowering phase, which is what all of these lights are right here. These are called high intensity discharge lights, HID, which involves high pressure sodium metal halide. They range anywhere from 150 watts, starting at 150 watts for this little guy, which happens to be my most popular light right now with recreational. Everybody wanting to do just a small little grow, it's perfect for that. It's $86, comes with the bulb. I call it like a plug and play. Plug it right in and have fun. So these are a little more involved. These are digital ballast. They have a circuit board in the inside. Looks like a car amp. A lot of people make that assumption, or I think it's a car amp. It's actually a ballast that you can change the wattage on your light. So a couple styles here. Galaxy Commercial, more of a heavy duty style. This is a cheaper, more economical route called the Master Green, made by the same company. In fact, there's what you have here is you have a ballast, you've got a reflector, and you have a bulb inside here. And this is again all in one. It's connected, similar to a Gavita style bulb and ballast fixture, which is real popular now. This happens to be made by Sun System. This one's also has a digital ballast. It also has a dimmable feature. Something like this, a light like this, being, like I said, it's the biggest, baddest one with the most intensity. You do have to have higher ceilings, about 10-foot ceilings, air conditioning, a lot more involved. This is what the pros are using. So, well, again, we're starting out. It's funny I have these side by side, not on purpose, but 150 watt light, very intro, very basic, cheap, get you going, and then you've got the biggest, baddest one you can get right next to it. So that's it, really. And that's the majority of the lighting that it takes. Some people are getting into LED. I'm not a big fan of LED quite yet. That is coming on board with some the better brands out there. We are all about LED for vegetation staging, for cloning, but not quite for flowering yet. I highly recommend 1000 watt, 600 watt HPS for flowering. We've got a whole case full of bulbs here. So I sell two different brands of bulbs. We sell Hortilux and Ultrasun. So it's basically, I wouldn't call it a low end and a high end. We sell a medium range bulb, which is an Ultrasun, and a Hortilux, which I would consider be up on the higher end of the spectrum of brands of bulbs. The cool thing about Hortilux is they're made in Ohio, Mentor, Ohio, so we're all about that. You know, they're our neighbors, so we like to support them. There's a lot of brands out there. There's a lot of cheap bulbs out there. You got to be careful with that. I tell people, if you do one good thing for your grow, for your garden, buy a good bulb. That is it's the most important thing in your grow. We could say the lighting's the most important, but the bulb is what's actually putting out the intensity, putting out the light to grow your plants. Don't cut yourself short by going with a super cheap bulb. The key to indoor growing is you don't want a soil that's going to stay too moist for too long. You know, a lot of people do make the mistake. They'll go to Menards, they'll go to Lowe's, and they'll buy that Miracle-Gro soil. And Miracle-Gro, it just makes us cringe. You don't even hear those words, you know. And a lot of those soils are meant for your patio. They're meant for tomatoes in a pot on your back deck where the sun's beating down on it all day. Not for indoor growing. You want something that's going to drain well, something that you go put a gallon of water onto it, it's not going to be saturated in 5 days. You know, you want to come back in a day or two, 3 at the most, and then you want that plant to be ready for that next watering or feeding. So, you know, with that being said, Pro Mix right here is definitely the #1 seller for me, and I'd say in the Midwest actually. It's peat moss and perlite. Peat moss comes from bogs. Peat's used for a lot of things, so this is considered Pro Mix HP. So HP stands for high porosity. So high porosity means that it drains well. There's a little extra perlite in there. So customers really like these smaller bags here because it's what we call a loose mix. It's broken up compared to a bale, which these things probably weigh 70, 75 pounds, although it says 60 on there. I can tell you that I've unloaded and unloaded countless bales of Pro Mix. So, but that's the same thing as you see here, but it's just in a bale. It's compressed, it's heavier. You save a little bit more money going that way by going with a bulk compressed type bale. The one beside it here, back to talking about your media, your soil draining well. So a BX is actually going to be the opposite of the HP. Still Pro Mix, still the same company. This has less perlite. It actually has vermiculite in it, and vermiculite acts like little sponges in there. This one you definitely have to be careful with, but this is for the lazy gardener, someone that wants to go water their plants and maybe come back 3 or 4 days later. This would be their type of mix. As you can see, we don't have a lot of that, not real popular, but it's there for those people. They also call it a general purpose mix. So that's the Pro Mix. Black gold is another natural soil that we use. This one actually has peat moss in it and perlite, similar to Pro Mix. It's got earthworm castings in it, so it's going to give you a little bit of a starter nutrient charge of 0.05 on the nitrogen. It is OMRI listed, which makes it an organic soil, similar to like what we would see USDA stamped on the food we eat today. OMRI is the branded is the listing for companies that are making organic products and wanting to get those listed as organic. So this is not soil here. So this is called Hydroton. Hydroton. People have all kinds of funny names, ways of saying it, but clay pebbles, an easy way of saying it. So that would be strictly for a hydroponic system right there. This isn't something you would just grow in. There's no, it doesn't retain any moisture. This is something like this is just to hold your plant into a hydroponic system, and that's it. If you look beside you here, we've got a whole stack of it there as well for some of our bigger customers. that need a lot. You do get to reuse it. You can reuse it, which is nice, so it's not something you just throw away. You kind of rinse those out and reuse those time and time again. Big stack of pots here. We've got a wall of pots. We've got all different kinds, all different sizes here. These, let me see here, these are 7-gallon. We've got a double stack of 5 gallons, 3s, 2s, and 1s. We've got some stands to go on, or go underneath the pots. A lot of people like to keep these up off their floor, especially in the basement where you have a really cold floor. But what's more popular nowadays, and I highly recommend, are the fabric growing containers. Smart Pot, definitely they were the first ones to come out with the fabric containers and market that to this industry. Very popular. Again, these are made in America, like some of the other products. We always like to announce that when something's made in America. So these definitely are. You see they got some handles on them. So what's nice about a fabric container, we'll grab a plastic actually and kind of do a quick little explanation. In a plastic container, your roots are going to run out to the outside here. Your roots want to get outside the container. They want to be outside. They want to be in the ground. So your roots hit the plastic. They're just going to run circles around the bottom, just trying to get out of that pot. If you ever pulled a pot out or a plant out of the pot, look at the bottom, you see all the roots down there. They're all jammed at the bottom, trying to get out of there. It's not really healthy for the plant, especially long term. So in the fabric container, what happens is your roots hit the outside of this container, they sense the air out there and branch out, more lateral branching, more fibrous branching, so you end up getting a nice root mass from top all the way down to the bottom. And what would happen, you take this off of here, you're not going to see any roots running around the bottom. You're just going to see hundreds of little root tips. So again, very highly recommended fabric containers over plastic. They are reusable. You just have to turn them inside out, clean them out, wash them. If the wife or girlfriend lets you put them in the washing machine, that would be great. If not, you know, garden hose, scrub brush, hang them outside. Water is very crucial, just as crucial, as important as the light bulb. If you give your plant bad water and it dies, that's no good. So you got to start with good water, most definitely. Some of the best water is well water, actually. A lot of people want to instantly just go buy that store water. They instantly want to put the filter on their sink or on their house. I always advise people, I ask people, you know, how good is your water? You know, well, they don't quite know. They say, I don't know, it's okay. Well, I ask them, does it taste good? Does it look good? Smell good? What's your shower look like? What's your toilets look like? You know, that's always a good sign of how good or how bad your water is. People tell me, oh, our water is great, it tastes wonderful. That's probably the best probably best water for your plants. So someone that's in a city environment or has city water, you definitely want to filter the chlorine out of that. It's not ideal, especially if you're trying to be organic, you're trying to create a micro life in your soil. That chlorine just kills that. So it's not ideal. Chlorine water is not ideal anyways in general, you know, if you ask most people. So it's definitely not good for your plants. So if you're going to use chlorinated water, I definitely advise filtering that or just go and buying that store water to begin with. So water is very important. And if you have to, I advise people to get your water tested. There's a lot of places throughout the state you can get your water tested. It's cheap, if not free. pH is very important, and back to the water thing, you know, tap water typically is high 7s, low 8s. So you've got to bring that pH down. If not, you're going to have a lot of issues, you know. So you want to be in between 6 and 7. And there's a variance there. You can go a little bit both ways, but in general, between 6 and 7, 6.5 is kind of there on the nose in the middle. If you're going to be hydroponic, some of those guys will dial it all the way down to 5.8 even. You know, there's a lot of variables there. So pH is key. You know, you get that water. If it's too high, a lot of times you put the fertilizer in there. That'll bring it down. But if you need to bring it down even farther, I'm actually standing here with a nice kit, or buy a nice kit. This is for pH. So you have some pH drops here. You put your water in here, or the water with the fertilizer in it. You're going to put 3 drops of this. It's going to turn a color, match that color to the bottle right there, and it's going to give you a pretty good idea of where you're at. 9 times out of 10 you're going to be too high. Like I mentioned, your tap water is going to be high, so you're going to use down. You know, if you need to go down, you use down. You got to go up, you use the up. Real common sense there. So down, definitely the most common. So starting out there, I mean, you want to start out there regardless. If you're doing seeds, you're doing clones, all stages, you have to make sure your pH is dialed in. You know, I think organics is always recommended, whether it's the food you eat or it's what you're putting in your plants. You know, organic is always good. Stuff from the earth is always a plus, of course. This is a really good nutrient fertilizer, organic fertilizer line I sell. This is made from General Organics. Also, the General Hydroponics is the bigger company there. So they have a full lineup here. You've got a grow for the grow phase. You've got a bloom for the bloom phase. And then you get into what we call additives. So you've got bio roots. No surprise, that's for your roots. Calcium, magnesium, just that. Calcium, magnesium for customers that need a little extra of that. If you're using reverse osmosis, you definitely have to add CalMag back in. Bio buds, a bloom sweller, bio marine. Hence, you know, this product's from the sea, and black diamond, which is humic acid. So all these products right here, they're all you know, they all come from the earth. They're organic. You're going to get really good flavors through your product in the end. You don't have to worry about flushing as much. You get that real good earthy taste, and it's all natural. You don't have to worry about chemicals and harming yourself. I recommend this to a lot of people that are starting out. You've got a bottle for grow. You've got a lot of nutrients, a lot of micro, macro nutrients in here. You got a bottle for bloom. Same thing, a lot of micro, macro nutrients. Very thick. These are actually suspended in an organic base. So a very good product to use. I highly recommend that one. Let's look at the Big Bud here. Big Bud's more for your flowering phase. I should say more for it is for your flowering phase. And you can see the NP, what's called NPK, you've got 0, 1, 3. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. And being that this isn't for veg, and being that this is for bloom only, we're not going to have any nitrogen. You're going to see the last two numbers. So that's not real high in NPK, but that's all right.